Yo, what's going on, everybody? Tuesday night, you know what that means. It's Flyers Talk A2D. Got a bit of interesting conversation for you guys tonight. We're going to discuss TK, what his future might look like for the Flyers. Is he worth trading? Is he going to be worth re-signing after his contract's up next year? We're going to discuss that. We're going to have a little Stanley Cup update for you as well. We're going to discuss what's gone down in the first two games of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. So definitely jump in the chat. We want to hear from you guys as always. Also hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on the notifications. This is the point where I would say if you're on the Facebook side, but we're having issues with Facebook right now. So YouTube, jump in the chat, hit that like, hit that subscribe. It's time to talk some puck. Let's do it.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D. I am Matt Sitsuti, along with the Darkwing, Brian Daly.
What up?
And Mr. Blue Shirt, Mr. Broadway, Mr. Switzerland, Big Bad Brad Ryer. And we welcome everybody to another edition of Flyers Talk A2D, sponsored by the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal, over at Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains and it's just bothering you and nagging at you and it will not go away, go hit up the doc at specializedphysicaltherapy.com, make an appointment there, and then head over to either Burlington or Cherry Hill, New Jersey. They got great teams at both locations. Once you are done with your sessions, you'll walk out feeling brand new, and you can get back to doing what you love when you're not at work, and you get back to being efficient at work. So both sides, both professional and personal, are doing just fine. And the poll question for today is: the Flyers will be better off trading Travis Konecny than signing him to a contract extension. Agree or disagree? And this is an interesting debate because obviously we've had the long historical debate of, do you sell high on someone or do you keep them around for what would seem to be a rebuild for the Flyers? Seem it is. But the question then is, how long is this rebuild supposed to be? That's the real question here. Because when you think about it, that determines whether or not you agree or disagree to this poll question. So, gentlemen, I leave it to you and to the fam, of course. We've got a few people who have already made their vote. So now to you guys, do you agree? Do you extend Travis Konecny? Or do you disagree and say, maybe try to see if you could sell high on him?
I'm going to jump in. The water feels a little warm, so I'm going to cannonball right in here, and I'm going to disagree with the poll.
Okay.
The reason why I disagree with the poll is because of where TK is as far as his growth and development as a player. He's just starting to get into his prime. He is a player that you build around. He's shown a lot of leadership growth over the last year or two. Points, they're coming. They are definitely coming. I mean, every year he's scoring more and more, so he's getting ready to really explode. Last two seasons, back-to-back 30-goal years. I think 6 out of his 8 years he's had at least 20 goals or more a season. This is exactly what you want from a guy like TK. He's been really good on the I almost said power kill, but essentially it's the same thing as a penalty kill for the Flyers. But, I mean, you trade Konecny now, I think it's a major mistake for the rebuild. You know, you still need vets on this team to build around. You need vets to show you what it means to be a Flyer, what it means to be a part of this organization. And TK, to me, is what being a Flyer is all about. He's the type of player that he plays with emotion. He plays with heart. When you need him to really step up, he's usually one of the few guys on this roster that steps up. I have a couple numbers in mind for where I would sign him to, but to me, you trade him, you're taking 2 steps back in the rebuild. I think there's a lot of the conversation is going to be, what do you get in return? I don't think you're going to be able to sell it as high as you want for TK right now. I mean, granted, he's had a couple years where he's missed a bunch of games. TK is a guy you build around. You just gave him the A that he absolutely deserves because he's a leader on and off the ice. You sign him to a nice contract, and no, it's not going to be $10 million because he's not in that tier. He's not that special of a player.
To be fair, there's very few who are in that tier.
there are very few that are in that tier. Leon Draisaitl's one of those guys that's in that tier who is rumored to maybe be connected with the Flyers when his contract's up after next season. So that's something we'll discuss further down the road. But I mean, TK is the guy you build around. At this point in his career, like I said, it's about to hit his prime. He's 27 years old. You can sign into an absolute reasonable contract. There's plenty of there's four spots on the roster right now without having Zamula signed. You know, you're letting Stahl walk, you're letting Guryanov walk, you're letting who's the other defenseman? I'm blanking on. But you know, you're opening up spot. You got 4 spots opened up. You don't have a ton of cap space to really do anything this free agency. Cap went up 4.5. You're flirting with 5, maybe a little bit more than 5. You don't have a ton of space. Now it's the time to sign Konecny. Now it's the time to do it because you don't have to worry about him for another year.
So, I'll throw out my opinion on this one. And by the way, this one comment here, John saying he swears watching Florida feels like he's watching the 90s New Jersey Devils team. He says, unreal. Oh, well, I guess Florida gets another cup and we continue to wait. Here's the difference, though. You don't really feel a sense of horror and shame and just complete and utter brokenness from watching the Devils win a Stanley Cup. You feel horrible. You feel like vomiting when you see the Devils lift up the cup. However, with Florida, you really don't feel bad. You're just kind of like, well, hey, listen, a blind squirrel finds a nut eventually. Florida found their way to a really good team. Finally. Took them a good long while.
Well, you actually you stole my point there, Maddie. How long did the Florida Panthers have to wait to get to where they are?
Oh, it took a good long while.
Right. Since 2000, it took Tampa another 10 years after the Cup in 2004 to really get back to where they are. I mean, rebuilds take time. I get John's point, and I'm with him. Like, how much longer does the fan base have to wait for the Flyers to get back to brilliance? But okay, John, I see what you're saying. He's referring to play style, which is yeah, which again still makes sense, but you know, PK's the type of guy that is going to help bring that play style to life because he's that type of player. You know, he's aggressive on the puck, he's aggressive on the boards. He knows how to get under a player's skin and get him to take a stupid penalty here and there. And sometimes he'll take a stupid penalty here and there, but you know, you play with emotion like TK does, it's going to happen. But for the most part, TK has really grown up into a really strong leader for this organization that, to be completely honest, is not as far away as people think. And I feel like I'm saying this every year, but with what Danny has done and with what Jonesy has done and the step that this team took under Torts this year, this team isn't that far off. And if you trade Konecny now, you're taking 2 steps back, in my opinion, especially for a guy who's going to be a borderline 35 to 40 goal scorer possibly next year, as long as he doesn't miss any time.
So to dive into that a little bit more here, we got some guys who are got some new members here that I haven't seen before. So we'll dive into their comments here. Avant-Garde is one of them, saying in the comment towards Florida, but of course the year they finally win, we get their first round pick at number
Yeah.
32. Shaking my head. Yeah, that sounds about right for Philly. He also says, I don't want any more 8-year contracts. That ends with players being 35, 5 years max. I understand the fear of 8-year contracts. I'm leery on those guys too. 6 is okay. Like
I
6,
say
you could,
6.
yeah, 6 is fine. That doesn't really bother me. When you go 8 and plus, it's like, ooh, is this a franchise player? Because that's really the only time that you could justify pulling out that kind of contract is if
Yeah.
that's the franchise player at the end of the day. And
Like
you really
somebody
only
like
get one of those contracts. You
yeah,
get
like
one
Connor
per
Bedard.
team. Yeah, that's
Connor
it.
Bedard, I was signed to an 8-year contract as soon as he's out of the ELC. There's certain stipulations where I would be okay with 8-year contracts, but with Konecny being 27, give him 6 years. Give him the money give him 8.5 for a 6-year span. Contract's up at 32. You want to re-sign him for another 2 or 3 years? Figure out the money.
Well, Frankie Fasthands, another new member here, saying trade him unless he takes 8 mil and 5 years, an 8x5.
Okay. I'd be okay with an 8x5 too.
And then he also says Florida drafted smart, traded smart, and developed smart.
Yeah.
And then he also
Took
says,
forever, though.
It did. And he also says, I want Connor McLindros. Don't we all? Yeah. But by the way, Avant-Garde, Frankie Fasthands, please feel free to hit subscribe, hit the bell icon, and keep checking out A2D because it's not just hockey here. It's football, baseball, basketball. It's everything here. Every day of the week, we got something going on.
Appreciate your comments as well, guys.
Absolutely.
All you guys. Priz, John, what's up, Johnny? My blue line partner. I haven't had you in the chat in a while, my brother.
Yeah, he's saying trade.
Yeah, we had a slight discussion about this the other day, and I understand why some guys would say trade because he does have that high value right now. But I think that just sets you back too far. It does free up a lot of cap space, though.
Right. John saying, what about draft? Best player at 12, trade a player to be named, and the Florida pick for 1 next year. That would give flexibility in the 2025 draft and a better class.
Yeah. Best player at 12, absolutely. Obviously there's preferences at 12, but absolutely best player at 12.
If you think that see, the thing is, he says trade the player to be named and the Florida pick for 1 next year. So you take the best player at 12 and then you put that player in a trade with the Florida pick at 32.
Oh, no, I think he's saying somebody who's currently on the roster.
Oh, okay, I see. I misread it. So, yeah, trade a player to be named. Okay, so current member of the roster plus the Florida pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so to get a good pick out of next year's draft class with that, even with it being a deep draft, you still want to get a nice higher pick. You would probably have to trade someone who is young, most likely. Probably because I don't think you could get that deal with even if you were to throw TK in that deal, you might have to throw one other thing on. You might have to.
Guys, here's the problem with this, okay? How long do you want to rebuild?
That was the question I did bring up before. And now, Brad?
How long do you want to rebuild? Because if you trade Travis Konecny, I don't think you're going to get for him what you think you're going to get for him. Okay? Because he's on the last year of his contract. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, he's finally really gotten to a point now where he's a legitimate star. And I think the Flyers would be nuts to trade him at this point because I think he's right on the verge and right on the precipice of being, between 35 and 40 goals every year. Okay, and there's no reason why the way he plays, his game won't be good in his low to mid 30s. So as far as I'm concerned, first of all, you got to have a couple of leaders and guys who've been on the team for a while. Number two, you trade him. Okay, what do you and really, guys, and I don't mean to be disrespectful to Travis Konecny because I think he's a heck of a player, but I'm thinking about like, okay, if I'm the Rangers, would I want him? Of course I would want him. I would love to have him. Okay, but what would I want to give up for him? I don't know, like Kako, Miller, maybe a first round pick. I don't think you guys would want something like that, but that's probably all you're going to get for him. Because remember, he's on his last year of his contract, and then you're going to have to pay him. So any team that's going to get him is going to have to be all in to want to get him. I just don't think that you're going to get what you would hope to get. I mean, I would keep him, and I think you're better off. Whatever you get in trade, Konecny is going to be better than. So at this point, you keep him, and I think you do sign him. And I wouldn't be opposed, as I said. I think his game will be good till he's 36. So you want to give him 7, 8 years, as long as it's not $10 million a year. You want to give him say between. You want to pay him a little bit more in the beginning and a little less at the end, so that the AAV towards the end is a little lower. That structure it correctly, so it works out for you.
I will say with what Prism's saying, he's saying sign and trade later on if you need to. A lot of that also, yeah, you could do that, Pris, but again, that of course depends on the length and everything like that. But on top of that as well, that also depends on other factors on the team. And obviously development of the young players, but even more importantly, for veteran leadership, which is something that's going to be very important as we talk about with Konecny, that also depends on Couturier. That's a factor that I think we have to take into account too. It's like, while we did put the C on him, he kind of disappointed a little bit. Now, again, this is very late in the year he got that C, and we could go on forever and debate, was it the right time to put the C on him? Was it just something to do for the moment being because it was already going to go to him anyway, and they figured just give it to him now instead of waiting until next year? Whatever you fall on that side of it is whatever. The point is that if he is not playing up to snuff and he's kind of struggling wearing the C, then what you should probably do, besides like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, is you should probably keep Konecny so that he can be the leader of the team with the A. Because it happens sometimes. Sometimes you think a player is going to be the captain, and then once they get the role, it's like, well, wanting it and then getting it and keeping it is a whole different story right there. I mean, hey, Bri, you brought up way back in the day one of your favorite players in the history of the Flyers, Mr. Eric Desjardins.
Mm-hmm.
He had the captaincy for only 1 year, and he did not handle it very well. So they took the C off of him, and I believe they put it on to Primo after him, right? I think it was Primo who followed him up.
I think so.
Yeah, and Primo was perfect for it. He fit the definition of what a captain needed to be. So you might have one of those situations where the C comes off of Coots, and maybe you have to put it on Konecny, or at least until somebody that you feel that's young and up and coming can have it. I mean, that's a worst case scenario, though.
Well,
but still,
here's my thing on Coots. I'm giving him and I know I'm probably one of the few people that's going to say this. I'm giving him a pass for last year. Did I expect a little bit more out of him? Absolutely. First full season after basically having a year and a half off. Joel Farabee had surgery last year. Everybody wanted to give him a pass. Now I get it. It's kind of a different situation, but Couturier is going into camp this year actually having almost basically a full season underneath his belt. Back to playing the game. I think we're going to see a different Sean Couturier this season. And for that reason, I think we're going to see a little vamp in not just Couturier's game. We're going to see a little vamp in TK's game, Lawton's game, and some of the other guys on the defensive side too. We're going to see Sanheim probably step up. You're going to see Cam York probably take another step in the development. Cam York's coming off a great year last year. Definitely a future power play quarterback, along with Jamie Drysdale. Hopefully that shoulder surgery helped him out and actually fixed the problem. But sometimes you need to let these guys get a full year in under their belt before you start doing things like putting a C on him, Matt, as you were saying. TK had a little trouble with injuries a little early on in his career, and look at him now. One of the voices in the locker room, one of the leaders, one of the guys you want to build this team around. You want to talk about a guy who is a flyer, and you want to sit there and you want to sit here. How would you describe a flyer, right? How would you describe a Flyers player? Tough, gritty, can score a lot of goals. That's TK.
Right.
That's TK. This is the guy you want to build around. To me, it's not even a question. You figure out the contract, you negotiate the $10 million. I'm 1,000% sold on being a negotiation tactic because Sanheim did the same thing. He wanted 8.5. We wound up getting 6.5, which is kind of where I think he wanted to be to begin with. I think TK wants to be in at 8.5 because that 10 number, as much as everything's starting to go up, you're going to start seeing the market value for each position, for each style player go up. For right now, TK is worth 8.5. Because just at his prime, he's only going to get better.
Right.
Pay the man what he deserves.
He's going
That's
to
all I'm
age
saying.
well. I can tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
I compared him to Kreider the other last week. Okay, look at they're the same kind of player. They're strong, big, strong guys. Okay, they can both fly. Okay, and they took a little time to really hit their stride as far as not just being good, but getting a ton of goals. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, you have to keep him. He's not a guy you want to get rid of. You want to build around him. Okay, so that's what you need to do. If you trade him, it's going to take you at least 2 more years. Even if you bring the Russian kid in, it's going to take you at least 2 more years before you make the playoffs. Okay, if you keep him and you sign him, you'll be right in contention again next year. Maybe you'll get lucky, and maybe a couple of the teams that they're battling, will get some key injuries, and you can climb over them and get into the playoffs. You never know.
Or they'll just completely have the wheels fall off like the Flyers did towards the end there.
You never know.
Stuff happens. You don't get the things change every season. Okay, who expected the Devils to just completely fall off the face of the earth this year?
Nobody. We were talking about how they were probably going to win the division.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think I had them finishing second or third.
Yeah, they're third at worst.
Right, and they found.
I think I had them for.
I think I had
them for third behind the Rangers in Carolina. So nobody would have expected that.
Right.
Maybe next year all of a sudden Detroit becomes and Buffalo become the big time teams, and maybe Boston finally starts going away.
Well, what's great about what you just said,
don't know.
Brad, is I think one of the smartest things, and there were some rumors over the last couple of years involving Chris Kreider. I think one of the smartest things the Rangers ever did was keep Chris Kreider. Why? Because he is what it means to be a Ranger. He understands the organization. He understands the fan base. He understands the expectations. That's Travis Konecny.
Listen, he also didn't. He wasn't greedy in asking for the world. $6.5 million, considering what he was doing before. Now remember, before when they re-signed him, okay, he hadn't scored 52 goals yet. Since they re-signed him, you're looking at 52, 37, and 39. Okay, not bad.
No,
sometimes when these guys get the money, they grow into it, and sometimes you have to take a leap of faith with these guys. And I think Konechny is one of those guys. I just like what the Rangers did with Kreider, And listen, it was when they signed him, it was a while ago. The cap was lower, so they kind of got away with murder, only having to pay him $6.5 million. By the way, Kreider is also done with his no trade contract. He now has a limited 15-team kind of thing too. So you never know. I mean, there's a lot of stuff can happen. And I would say this about Konechny, okay? If you're trading him and you're bringing in Draisaitl, okay, that's different. Okay,
I mean, if they're willing to do that,
yeah. I mean,
well, Draisaitl ain't going anywhere until he hits free agency, and he has expressed interest in testing the market because Edmonton's not going to afford what he's going to be asking for, and he has interest in playing for an Eastern Conference team.
So yeah, I mean, but again, my whole point, you guys aren't going to be able to do a heck of a lot in the off season this year, as far as acquiring talent. After the season, though, there's a lot of dumpage going on. You're going to be rid of a lot of the stuff a lot of the mistakes that were made by the previous regime. So there's a chance for you guys to take some money in, and and you want to have Konechny there. You want to find somebody to play with Konechny. You want to have somebody to play with Mitchkov. Just stay the route you're going. You've already committed to it, okay? But don't do anything stupid and start trading him for a draft choice, because then you're gonna just, if you do that, then you almost have to make the playoffs within the next 2 seasons, or the fans are just gonna say bye.
So you brought up a very interesting topic there, Brad, and I'm gonna jumping on the cap friendly while we still can before the Capitals shut it down for some reason. I don't know why they want to do it, but they're going to do it.
I heard about
in
that.
July. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life.
That made me
out
laugh.
There. So this is what I liked about you bringing this up. So if we're looking into next year already, Atkinson's coming off the book. You're looking at Ryan Johansson coming off the books. That's
why I mentioned it.
Yeah, $9 million just between those two players gets freed up.
Severe dumpage.
Garnet Hathaway comes off the book. That's almost $12 million.
Tony DeAngelo's contract comes off the books too.
Tony DeAngelo's done, so that's an extra mil. So that's $13 million freed up right there between 4 players. You got Noah Cates, you got to re-sign as an RFA. Morgan Frost. He's going to be an RFA at the end of next year.
Yeah, but Tyson
Forster's going to be an RFA at the end of next year.
Right now, you're only looking at between $3 and $4 million for him.
The point I'm getting to is you got these young guys getting ready to come out of their contracts that you need to resign. Cam York's another one.
But you know what?
These guys are going to want money.
Brian,
if you got no money, they're going to go.
You get another good look at them for another season to see if you want to pay them.
Right. Kind of justify their value.
So
that helps justify their value.
Right. You'll get a better idea of, do I want to pay this guy X amount of money, or if they don't have as good a year, maybe I can get away with paying them a little less.
Cal Peterson's another one. That's another $3 million, right? Almost $4 million right there. There's a lot of money going to be freed up next year.
You're going to have to tolerate next year. Okay, next season you're going to have to tolerate that, because unfortunately their previous regime, screwed the pooch this year for the season with the salary cap. But again, you're in a position where the following season you can kick ass, and as I said, Konechny is getting better and better. Okay, and I would expect that he's going to hit 40 goals within the next 2 seasons.
I think he'll do it next year.
If he stays healthy next year, there's no reason why he can't. Okay, he's a really good player. I've always thought, even when he first came up, I said to myself, the first time I saw him play, which is like 6-7 years ago, this guy's a pain in the ass. He's going to be pretty good. He just was, because he was just always in your face, and He scored a few goals his first season. I think he scored like 10, somewhere between 10 and 15 goals his first season, something like that. As a rookie, and he was a real pain in the ass. So I liked him just back then. So now he's taking it to the next level, and there's no reason why. He's not that small a guy, but he's like what is he, like 5'11", and he weighs almost 200 pounds.
He's about my size, yeah.
Yeah, but that's big for a hockey player.
You know what else is big? Hitting that like, hitting that subscribe, turning on them notifications, never missing anything that ATD has to offer, whether you're on Facebook when we get that back, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on IG, wherever you are, that's where we are. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Never miss anything ATG's got coming. We got tons of great stuff. We got something for everybody.
So, Priz here saying, you think y'all are closer than y'all think if Mishkov is who we think he will be on the ice. If Michkov comes in and he is an absolute phenom and he is putting pucks in the back of the net and really causing a terror on the ice, I definitely think that adds a little bit more to the Flyers, and maybe it does give them a little bit of that extra oomph to where even if he starts to peter out later on in the season, somebody else can pick up the slack to where maybe that does give that little extra tick to where the Flyers get into a playoff spot. It can happen if he comes in.
But he's going to need help. That's why you got to keep connecting.
Oh, yeah, and I agree on that.
Listen, as great as Kirill the Thrill is, okay?
He's not, yeah.
Yeah, but he can't do it himself.
No, that's true.
The Wild didn't make the playoffs.
No.
He needed help. He needed a sidekick.
You're right.
So what's wrong with TK? If you can keep him even as a sidekick, man, I mean you're setting yourself up to have a premium first line.
Right.
Premium.
What Prism said. What Prism just said.
Tippett, TK, and Farabee all had career years, and the good news is that they're all young. Even TK, who's the oldest, isn't old. By
only
27.
Yeah.
27 in hockey. There are different kinds of 27s in hockey. There's 27 for guys who have been beat up over the years, like defensemen especially, who've had a lot of injuries and have thrown a lot of hits and are, starting to slow down. This guy is not that player. Okay, and it seems like he's getting better and better every year. So I wouldn't worry about him. As I said, I think he'll age well. So, if you have to take a leap of faith, yeah, but do it. Why not?
So,
I mean, do you want him? The idea is to win. The
Right.
idea is to eventually win the Stanley Cup. Okay, players like Konecny can get you to the Stanley Cup. You trade him, okay? Then you've got to find somebody who you can replace him in a couple of years. There's no guarantee that you're going to get a guy who. And don't forget, it's not that easy to play in Philadelphia.
No.
I mean, you guys are like my fan base. You're not the easiest fan base to please.
Well, I mean, you've seen the goaltending carousel. That's one of the biggest prime examples of it.
Yeah, well, it's not just, but Matty, it's not just the goaltending.
Oh, I know, it's everything.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, listen,
everything.
you guys are real tough on your players. Ranger fans are always criticizing Chris Kreider. They're always saying that he disappears. Like he only disappears if they don't get him the puck in front of the net. Then he disappears. Okay, but you know what? You take a shot, and you take a shot when he's standing in front of the net. I promise you, he's not disappearing. Yeah, but my fan base is as stupid as any fan base. Okay, yeah, they really are. And I'm in a lot of these groups, and I'm constantly fighting with all these guys. And you know what? I'm getting thrown out of a lot of them because me. I will tell the truth.
Yes.
But positive or negative, I don't hold back on what I think. So it is what it is. This guy needs to stay in the Flyers. If you want to trade him, send him to us. Okay, I'm sure he would be great with Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider.
I think you guys are fine.
I think
you don't need
I
him.
honestly think that if we had him on our team, we could win the Stanley Cup. Except the only problem is if you were smart, you'd ask for Lafreniere, and that's never going to happen. So, a 22-year-old guy with 27 goals or 28 goals is not getting traded. And if I'm the Flyers, that's who I'm asking for.
I'm also asking for Shesterkin, so that way you guys really can't win the cup then.
Well, yeah, but do you have $12 million a year to pay him?
Probably not.
We might not either. So.
I was going to say, don't be surprised if Igor winds up testing free agency. You got to kind of see where he winds up.
So
He might.
let's take a look here. Let me see what the fam is saying so far on the poll. Pove
While
did
you do
chime
that-
in.
While
Yep.
you do that, Maddie, tack another one on for the Phillies as they beat the Red Sox tonight by a score of 4-1. Have yourself a game, Schwarbs.
He's on my fantasy team, by the way.
2 for 4, 2 home runs.
Home runs.
2 home runs.
Well, there you
Let's
go.
go.
I'll take the 12 points.
So far, Pove sign, Priz sign, Chuck said disagree. So far, all three on the disagree category.
Also, vote in the YouTube chat as well. We got a poll up there, so vote on the YouTube chat as well. We may have one for Twitter too, but I'm not 100% on that.
Gotcha. And John, he was unsure, so I guess he abstained from a vote there.
To John's comment, though, John, if you're still in the chat, man, you got to get through this year. If they can get through this year, they're going to free up a lot of money.
Right. This one I did not see before. Casimo Panita, I have never seen you before, so welcome. He says, depends on TK asks 8x8 or signs a 10 million by 8 contract.
He's not getting 80 mil.
That would be crazy. Also,
Nobody's going to pay him $10 million.
By the way, Danny Brzezowski says hi to you, Bri.
It's my nephew.
Ah.
What's up, D? Hope you're still listening. If you're still listening, drop something in the chat.
And let's see here.
Get your brother.
There's Don, although he didn't have a comment on the Konecny one, which I'm wondering why he didn't. That's all right. Maybe because
Don.
Yeah. Well, hey, what's going on, brother? And Frankie, he said trade him. So that's the first one that we had for one.
Well, he did say if he doesn't take 5x8.
Right, but no half measures. It's still 3-1. So I'm gonna put him in there. And then now John says trade, so that is definitely trade. So that's a 3-2 count right now that we got going here. And Bryce says don't trade him, so that's 4-3 or 4-2. And then Greg says agree, so that's 4-3. Of course, I'm not surprised Greg agrees. He wants to trade everybody. I swear, the moment that anybody gets even a lick of good and we don't make the playoffs, he wants them traded.
Love you, Greg.
I do love you, Greg, but it does seem to be your theme, brother. At least you have one. You stick to your gimmick. That's good. Own it. Now, Eric is saying trade Lawton now. However, though, he says keep TK, so that makes it 5-3. So currently, right now, people are disagreeing that the Flyers would be better off.
So the YouTube poll has 22 votes on it. Do you want to guess the percentage? When do you guys want to guess the percentage on it?
50-50.
Maddie?
55-45.
55-45 what? Who's where's the 55, Maddie? Because you got the percentages right now. Where's it go?
Wow.
Agree.
Mom, do you have it up?
Priz is the one who posted it, so don't blame me.
Oh, you got it.
Priz spoiled the whole thing.
Damn it, Priz. You bastard.
What? He's got a Pepe Le Pew icon on there now, so
Love
what do you
brother.
expect?
Love you, brother. You You bastard.
You are a stinker, Chris.
But yeah, so by the way, Priz, please feel free to tell us why you have Pepe Le Pew as your new icon. I am very intrigued to know why. But anyway,
Knowing Priz is probably because he got canceled. I still don't understand how you cancel a cartoon character from a very different time. But I'm not going to get into that.
yeah. But anyway, and then Priz did say the Russians are interfering again on that poll. So
real quick before we jump into the Stanley Cup update, I've read an interesting article today from Philly Hockey Now, and of course, with most of these reporters these days, there was not a whole lot of information in it, so I don't know why I wasted my time reading it. They believe that Ivan Demidov, who's projected to be a top 5 draft pick, is going to fall to 12.
really,
Riddle me that one. I think that's a joke.
He's going to be the second pick.
Third.
Okay. Sure.
Chicago's expected to take the other
hold
Russian
on.
defenseman. I forgot. I don't even know how to say his last name. But he's the best defenseman in the draft.
Is there something outside of hockey that could possibly be resulting in his stock falling?
I don't know. If it's a personality thing, Shane Wright had personality issues and only fell to 4.
That's a good point.
None of these guys that are expected to be in the top 3 ever fall out of the top 10. It's very rare. Cutter Gauthier was expected to be a top 3 pick, fell to 7. Who was the other one that dropped?
Didn't Cole Caulfield drop from his original position?
I don't think so. I don't think it was Cole Caulfield. There's somebody else I'm blanking on. But these guys don't drop that far. There's no way in hell that Demidov with his ability and the way he plays the game falls out of the top 7. There's no way.
Well,
unless the Flyers make some form of a miraculous trade where they climb up into the top 5. That's the only way I can see it happening, and have Anaheim and Utah pass on them.
But
I don't see that.
But the other thing too is it's like, what's the guarantee he even drops to 12? So say, just for argument's sake, for hypothetical, say he falls out of the top 10. You think number 11 isn't going to take him? He's not even going to be available probably when 12 rolls around. So it's not even really worth bringing up.
It was Drysdale. Drysdale fell.
Okay, that's who it was. All right.
He was expected to be a top 3, top 4 pick. Fell to 6. These guys don't fall out of the top 10.
That's only 6 though, not
right. That's not.
Well, that's exactly my point. Yeah, these guys never fall that far. Jamie Drysdale in his draft was the best defenseman in the draft.
To go even further,
Jake Sanderson got taken before him. Jake Sanderson, as of right now, is the better defenseman only because Jamie Drysdale's been having injury issues. But 21 years old, I'm not too concerned. But they never fall. When you have that much upside offensively and you're being comped to Nikita Kucherov or Mitch Marner or anybody of that caliber, you don't drop out of the top 10.
No.
Ever.
No, he's going to drop to number 30 and the Rangers are going to get him.
Can I have some of whatever it is that you're smoking over there?
John,
it's not quite as exaggerated as 12. A little more exaggerated, of course, but that's my point, though.
Me Metal Mike's here, and he's saying agree to the poll, so that's 6-3 now on the count here in the chat. So
we got 24 on a YouTube poll.
And he says thoughts on the Oilers not showing up in the Stanley Cup. Well, we'll get to that in just a quick second. Let's see who else we got here. Eric saying, I feel the war is causing Russians to fall. Political stuff sometimes does come into play, but I don't know if that's solely it. Unless he's getting drafted. That which did happen to one of the Flyers prospects.
Do me a favor, pop up Valentina's comment. Valentina, thanks for joining us. Appreciate the comment.
Hello.
I would consider this. I'm looking up to see what Marco did this year.
Interesting.
real quick before I
TK
decide.
to
But
Minnesota for Marco Rossi, their first round pick this year and a second in 20. Really, would
he
Minnesota
was
be
the best.
willing?
He was the best overall scorer in his draft class.
I know that's why I'm like,
I'm
interesting.
intrigued.
But what's even more intriguing is the first round pick this year from Minnesota and a second in 2026. I'm like, are you sure Minnesota would give up that much for TK?
They could. All right,
I mean,
so I'm gonna pop this up real quick. Just give me a second. I want to pop this up on the screen.
I don't know that Minnesota would do that.
They potentially could if they really want. Well, if he winds up signing an extension with Minnesota, and they can get Marco Rossi to sign. I got to look up his contract too, but this is. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. So these are his stats.
hold on, let me just pull that up. Okay, there we are.
So this is his stats from this year. 22 years old. I'll take that production out of a 22-year-old right now.
He's 22 years old and he had 40 points. That is nice.
-4, which means he's pretty strong on the defensive side too, as a center.
Right, Minnesota just
That's
overall
really
just had
good,
a rough
especially
year.
when you consider Minnesota.
Yeah,
This is a good defensive team too. Yeah, they're a pretty good defensive team as well.
yeah, there was a bad year for them this year.
Goaltending.
Yeah, goaltending was a big problem. Yeah,
they also, for some reason, they never showed up in the first period either.
well, that ain't going to help you either.
No, listen. I don't know how many games you guys watch the Wild play. I watched a few of their games, and they're always behind after the first period. If you take a look, it was crazy how they got outscored in the first period last year.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I would take that.
I don't know if you can check it if there's a statistic for that, but
well,
they were terrible in the first period last year. They had great second periods, but they had terrible first periods.
Huh. Interesting. Well, Valentina, thank you for the comment. Please hit like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Thanks for throwing that out there. That is a very interesting trade idea. And if Minnesota's willing,
really a good.
That's a very good.
That's
very
an impressive, well thought out trade. Wow.
That is interesting.
And they have control of him through next year.
Interesting.
So they'll have him on a 1-year deal. Then they have to sign him.
But he'd be a restricted free agent, not a UFA.
He'd be a restricted free agent. So the Flyers would still have the rights to him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Because he'd be coming off his ELC.
But then you probably would be paying him somewhere between $4 and $5 million, and not 10.
Yeah. And that's a lot more reasonable at the moment. And then if you wanted to sign this kid to an 8-year contract, you're signing him till he's 30.
Right, but you could wait and see how he develops before you get to stick your feet in the water.
Exactly.
Right.
There was something else I was
I mean, look,
Interesting.
that's a very good example of that. That was a very good example, and by the way, well thought out, Valentina.
Yeah.
Of somebody whom you could try to acquire, but that's not easy to do, and you don't know if Minnesota really wants to trade him anyway. That's the only thing.
Well, I mean,
it's an even trade, and you know what? Kiprusoff would probably be happy.
Right. B-Metal Mike saying Rossi, Frosty Lawton. He put a Groucho Marx.
So, what makes this even better, and why I would even consider this, although I would still, my choice right now is to sign TK. What would make this trade a little sweeter? Minnesota currently holds the 13th pick in the draft.
Ooh.
So you're getting back-to-back picks at 12 and 13.
Plus, the last team that got. Do you remember a certain team a few years ago? What, the 14th and 15th pick?
This is an intriguing.
That ended up in the Stanley Cup Finals, I think. After that, or won the Stanley Cup after that. They had that. That'd be the Boston Bruins.
Oh, wait a minute. Wasn't that the year they traded off a few players and they got a couple of draft picks?
Yeah, they got the 14th and the 15th pick. I don't remember who they picked. Maybe it was the year they picked McAvoy.
Was it Pasternak wasn't picked in that draft, was he? I don't
No,
think he was.
Pasternak was.
Yeah, he was too young.
Yeah, no.
He was
Pasternak
a
was
top
picked near the
pick,
bottom
too.
of the first round, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
But that gives him 3 first rounders this year, 12, 13, and 32, which means you can move the 32 and possibly still get something else in return.
Possibly.
Maybe another second round pick for this year. Maybe something for next year. Maybe you take a risk on a mid-level prospect for 32.
You'd be surprised though with 32. A lot of teams want to jump into the into number 32. They have second round picks.
And
They want to jump. They want to jump and get the last pick in the first round before the second round starts. That happens a lot more than you might think.
I mean, hey, the Flyers have had some gems they found in latter portions of the first round and in the second round. I mean, they found
TK.
Mike Richard. Yep, they found TK. They found Jeff Carter. They found. I think Gagne was actually picked pretty low when he got picked in the draft.
Guys, one twist in the 7th round.
Joe Pavelski got picked in the 7th round.
Another good example.
Yeah,
you never know. You never know.
So let's see here. One comment I did highlight was this, and it was John Malmos. Boston didn't sign Reed Dyke. Now does he go back into the draft, and where does he look to be drafted? He looked pretty good.
He hits free agency.
Yeah.
He becomes a UFA.
Interesting. Well, that means that he could take offers, so he could be open. The team might be willing to take a chance on him.
Is he a college free agent?
I believe so.
So he can't make more than $925,000 a year.
No, because he never signed his ELC. So anything that he signs is still considered his entry level contract.
Right. So he can't get. So it's
low risk, high reward.
He can play wherever he wants to play.
Right.
Because they're all going to offer him the same thing.
Right, and he's a low risk, high reward possibility. So that he might get some offers. He probably will. Now that you bring it up.
He'll get somebody. Somebody's going to sign him.
So let's see.
Maybe not.
We got about like 7 minutes left. So why don't we do a Stanley Cup update here? So for those, Gagne was 22. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought Gagne was relatively lower in the first round.
He spelled Ganji.
He did, but I knew what he was going for.
Right.
I'm not going to hold that.
We all know.
Yeah.
We love Priz. We just break his balls.
Right.
He breaks our balls all the time too. So mine specifically.
So, question now. Edmonton, after a couple of tough losses, they got shut out in game 1. Game 2, they had a chance to, kind of take control of the game. It didn't happen because eventually Florida turned it around and took the lead and never looked back. So 2 straight losses rattled off in Sunrise. They head out to Edmonton, which, fun fact, apparently is the longest distance between 2 teams in a Stanley Cup final, previously held by Boston and Vancouver in 2011, which is interesting to note. But now that we're in Edmonton for games 3 and 4, do we see a response from McDavid and company? Or are the Panthers going to take a 3-1 or possibly 3-0 stranglehold on this?
I do think the Edmonton Oilers do respond. I think we've all agreed that this is going to be a fairly long series, because these are two teams that know how to score. The one thing that I think Florida is doing really well in this series is really staying out of the box. They're not taking really any undisciplined penalties, and that's keeping the very dangerous Edmonton Oilers power play off the ice. To me, that's how you beat this team. I mean, obviously, Stuart Skinner's been pretty hot lately.
McDavid wasn't too happy with Stuart Skinner, by the way.
No,
I'm sure he wasn't.
He's probably not happy with a lot of players on his roster right now.
Yeah, boy, did you hear that press conference the other day?
No.
Oh, he's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean,
Brutal. I forgot who it was, but I think it was the guy they signed from Toronto, the guy that scored 45 goals, Hyman.
Oh yeah.
He had a tap in, and during his press conference, he said, "Heck, I gave him the puck for a tap in, and somehow he put it over the blankety blank net."
I mean,
I don't get it. My goalie, we give up less than 20 shots, okay, and he lets 4 in.
but your goaltender is Stuart Skinner, bud. What the hell did you expect?
Your defense hasn't been that good. Like everybody's saying Darnell Nurse is having a good play. The dude's like minus 17 or 18 or something like that for the playoffs. That's not
for him,
good.
that's probably pretty good.
But for him, that's good.
Yeah.
But I mean, when your offensive production is essentially coming from 2 players right now, you're not going to win a lot of games. You're not going to get any of the really good scoring chances. Bouchard's been good on the defensive side. I'll give him that.
He's been the standout, really.
Evander Kane hasn't had a shot on net yet. We're 2 games in. Now, 1 shot. He's more concerned with wrestling and fighting whoever it was that he had after the knee-on-knee from Warren Fogle.
Yeah. I mean, but that's Evander Kane for you. So, you kind of almost expect it.
You can't rely on the power play, and you can't rely on Zach Hyman and Connor McDavid alone to beat a team like Florida. Florida is so much deeper. They're rolling 4 more lines. They're just so aggressive on the forecheck.
Sounds so familiar, doesn't it?
It does sound familiar. I feel like I just said this 2 weeks ago.
I mean, I think I just got this lecture a few weeks ago.
You did. You did.
And you know what? But I hate to say the teacher is right, but the teacher over there. Wait a minute. Yeah, there you go. The teacher over there. He's right. It's not just that. They're just really hard to play against.
They're physical. They wear you down.
I heard that Bry's a really strict grader too.
Yeah.
Like
I don't grade with a curve. I'm just letting you know right now. I don't grade with a curve.
If it ain't perfect, it ain't getting
an A. Honestly, I think Edmonton's in big trouble. I mean, I had a serious change of mind on my on the final whistle. I changed my mind and said Florida in 5 before the series started because the way they were able to shut down the Rangers, they could do the same thing to Edmonton too.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, Edmonton's biggest their wheelhouse is the power play.
They score all their goals on the power play. They're not a great 5-on-5 team.
They're not.
And I mean, I knew that about the Rangers, but I didn't expect them to go 1 for 15 on the power play. I didn't expect them to score more shorthanded goals than power play goals.
I will say this though. The one thing Edmonton has done really well, especially in the last 2 series. Appreciate you, John. Edmonton's penalty kill has been outstanding. I think they've killed off I think it's 36 or 37 straight penalties.
Right. And you would have thought that would have been that would have thrown a little bit of an interesting dynamic into this series. They're like, so they've been playing a little bit better defensively. Maybe that's enough for them to get by. So far, it had been enough to get them out of the West. But then they ran right into Florida, and Florida's like, that's cute. You guys have made some stops on the penalty kill. What about 5-on-5? Can you do that? You can't? Well, we'll just take this cup now. Thank you very much.
Checking something.
Thanks for coming. By the way, Canada's going to burn at this very moment. Just letting you know.
Yeah, I think it's something like 30 something. It's like 35, 36, 37 straight penalties they killed off. Like that's outstanding. Like they're giving themselves a chance to stay in it, but they're not taking advantage of it. They're not.
Question, Brian. Does it say if that's a record?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I was just wondering if it was a record or not in the playoffs.
But real quick before we start wrapping things up, my final thought on this whole series is I'm sticking with what I said. Still going to be Florida in 6. I saw to Mike's comment here that he just Edmonton took some liberties in this last game. I don't think Florida's going to take that lightly. I think Drysdale should have at least gotten fined for his hit on Barkov. I think Carrick getting fined was the right call for his. They called it a slash. It wasn't quite a spear, but I don't think it was a slash. He definitely was trying to make sure that that Florida player was never going to have kids again.
Yeah, that nice.
And I think
shot.
Warren Fogle should not get suspended for that incident. I don't think that major was appropriate after rewatching it. They didn't quite collide knee to knee, but it was still unfortunate. I think he just definitely deserved a penalty for it. But to get a major and a misconduct, I think was a little much. But Florida, I think Edmonton takes game 3, and then Florida 4.
Takes game 4 and 5.
Yeah, Florida. I think Edmonton takes game 5, and then Florida wraps it up in 6.
Oh, really? You think Edmonton's going to go to Florida down 3-1 and pull off a win in game Florida?
Desperation, baby. Desperation in the finals. They're not going to go down easy.
No, you know what? It could have. I'm not saying it wasn't. It didn't have. Before the series.
By the way,
on this show, I said 6 for Florida, and then I changed my mind and said 5. But it's
yeah,
it's gonna be tough for Edmonton. Edmonton needs to get some power play goals.
Question, gentlemen: has the Vezina nominees been said yet?
I think we did that last week. I went with Bob.
Yeah, because I would go. Bob is amazing right now, but also on top of it, if they win the cup, he's getting the Conn Smythe. You can't give it to anybody else. You really can't.
Okay, yeah.
If you get if they win the cups, Conn Smythe's got to go to Bob. It
Look at
has
game 1.
to.
Look at game 1.
Right.
That was all Bob.
What more do you have to say?
That was all Bob. That was a fantastic.
Look at game 6 against the Rangers. Some of the saves he made.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, did he make the backhanded save? I think it was him. Was it? Yeah, Bob made that backhanded save. That alone should get him the Conn Smythe if they win the cup. Yeah. So, but anyway, all right. Well, right now, 2-0 in the series. Florida looking real strong heading up to Edmonton. Can the Oilers rebound? Can Connor McDavid pull some magic off? Or are the Oilers going to possibly head back down to Sunrise in a really precarious situation in the finals? And will Canada burn at the end of this final? We'll find out. I'm sure by next week we will have an answer. Until then, though, folks, we thank you all for joining us for another edition of Flyers Talk A2D, brought to you by Specialized Physical Therapy. Check them out. Get rid of those aches and pains. Next week, we'll have more for you on the Flyers, and we will see if a Stanley Cup champion has officially been crowned, and whether or not Canada's cup drought has come to an end, or it will continue to 31 years of a Canadian team not winning the Stanley Cup.
Potential live reaction next week.
Ooh.
There's game 5.
Okay.
Next Tuesday. So,
all right. All right. So we might have a Stanley Cup Finals game to react to. So that's always fun to do. I believe last year we got lucky enough to where the Vegas Golden Knights got crowned the night we reacted to them. So who knows? Maybe we might have that pull off again.
We've had 2 in our illustrious existence.
Right.
3.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Let's complete the hat trick. We've had Capitals and we've had the Golden Knights. Now, let's see who we get, if it's Florida or Edmonton.
Well,
it can only be Florida. But anyway, all right, so we will see you all next week. Stay safe, stay healthy. Peace and love, everyone.